Hey, what's going on? Ryan here, SethBaseTriathlon.com, just settling in to have a quick little discussion. We're going to talk about 2022 Ironman Des Moines. Just raced that a week ago. And I want to talk about transition because in 2023, they're bringing back the 70.3 distance. And the transition, I will assume, is going to stay in the same place because the transition area from 2021 was 70.3 to 2022. It was a full Ironman to 2023. Being a half again, I would imagine transition is going to stay in Waterworks Park. Swim's going to stay in Grace Lake, and the finish is going to stay downtown because that seemed to be a big draw for everybody. It seemed to work out pretty decent, and they seem to be honing in on how to manage that as best as possible as far as logistics go for athletes. So we're going to assume that they're going to do the event in the same area, and I'm going to talk to you about the transition area. You'll see videos that are more about the full, but it can be relatable to the half as well. So bear with me. They may change some of the things as we go through. I'll kind of describe how it was like for the full and what potentially they're going to do for the half and what they did for the half last year. Lots of things mixed into going from a full or a half to a full to a half, and the things that they've learned, the things you're doing a little different. So we're going to dive right in. So we're going to start with Ironman Des Moines 2022. Did the race, and I'm going to pull up the event schedule, and in that is the locations of everything. So this one's a little bit different in regards of logistics of, parking. Usually sometimes parking is a little bit of a hike to get to transition area, but they had parking over in Bell Avenue. They had parking downtown in Cal's Commons. This is where Ironman Village was. This is where the finish line is, and transitions over here in Waterworks Park. So it's very spread out, and then the swim starts, swim finish for the full. Now, for the half last year, the swim start was here in this little swim beach area, and you swam a little rectangle lake, and then you finished over at Grace Lake Park. I don't know if they'll do the start and the finish the same place for 2023, so remains to be seen on that. I think it worked out pretty well, so they may change that up a little bit and just keep it all there. For me personally, it kind of worked out well, but logistics-wise, there may be a reason why they don't do it over there. So we'll see what they do in 23. But for 22, this is where the start and finish were. For 21, the start was over here and the finish was the same place. So I just want to pull up this map because what you're seeing is this is Waterworks Park. So there's really no parking here, and the bike course starts on this little access road. So race day, they get you all parked here and parked here. In 2021, I don't remember if they had shuttles from downtown to go to transition, but they did not have shuttles from Bell Avenue Business Center. In 2022, they had shuttles from downtown, and they had shuttles from Bell Avenue to get you all there. So parking was not an issue around the transition area. I don't know if they'll continue that for 23. I'd imagine. I know it made life a lot easier not to hike all the way over here to try to get to the transition area or to try to manage it from downtown. And then after the race, they had shuttles from downtown to the transition area to get your stuff, and then they would take you back. The wait was a little bit long, but at the end of the day, it's not horrible or anything like that. But it is like about a 1 mile walk, or at least it felt like it, from the parking here to Business Avenue. I know there's like this little trail system you might be able to get in and get to your transition area a little bit easier. But anyway, I digress a little bit. We're talking specifically about the transition area. So this was the layout for 2022. So the swim finish and swim start were right here, right next to each other. So in 21, we had to run this little trail from the finish all the way under. There's this little Thunder and Fluid Drive. And then we ran this little pavement area over to transition area, transferred over to our bikes, and went out the back and did our bike ride. In 22, they had us go out this John R. Grubb Lane, which is a little entryway into the park. And then we ran across the street and then on the backside and ran across a grass area. Now, part of this was probably the staging area for all our bags was right here. So you run through, grab your bag, and then you run into a changing tent that was in the transition area. So that might be a little bit of the reasoning. I don't think over here would have been as much area. They probably could have done it, but I think this kind of limits the distance you had to run. Probably a little bit longer to get all the way over here and then stretch out over here to the run. So I don't know what they'll do in 23, but this was the layout for 21. So I've got a little video, and I'll narrate that as we go through. Blow it up a little bit. So I did the walk before the race. Did one with my daughter. I'll turn the sound off for our comedic entertainment there that we had while we're going through. So basically, this is where the swim start is. And you can see they already had the buoys out. They did a practice swim on Saturday. I believe this was Saturday when we dropped our bike off. We just wanted to go through and walk it and just see what it was like. So this is where they staged us. And there they had crossed off where you see this gate. That was where you started to go into the swim start. So if you walk past that, as you can see, it's super exciting. Wish I could speed it up for you. Nope. So we are going to watch it in its entirety. It's about 6 minutes. So this is the swim exit. So right here to the right, you had the start. Over here is the exit area. I take that back. This is the swim start area. So they were still staging all this area and stuff. And then they had us run out of the swim area over here. And then we popped out on the sidewalk. So as you can see, I correct myself. This right here was the chute to come out of the swim. So this, right when we get here, is when we will start. And if just in the background, if you have any questions, I'm doing this live on Facebook. So if you have any questions or anything like that, you can post them in the comments and I can answer them live. If you're going to do the race in 23 and you're like, oh, what's this like? What's this like? What's that like? Put that in the questions. I can see those live. We can answer when we're going through here. But this is going to be the start of the transition for the full in 22. So you're running through here, this path area. So once you took a left up here, they had wetsuit strippers. Now they had this for the full. In the half in 21, they did not have wetsuit strippers. So that was a little bit of a difference. And in here, actually, I'm going to take you in the incorrect area because this was the trail that was behind, and actually you ran over this little road area. So we're going to fast forward through this. This is not accurate. So they had you run on this road, and then they had traffic blocked off, so it wasn't a big deal. So you cross the street, and that's where the lights are everything. And right there to the left is where I stashed my shoes. So we can go back. We will... Mike Pinto made a good point there. He's one of the fellows that I know doing a race. So what he did was he stashed some shoes along here. So that's one trick that some people did. I did barefoot. I didn't have a problem. So he came over and maybe around here or something like that and stashed some shoes, just something, or flip-flops or something to run across concrete. I felt like I didn't have a problem until I crossed Fluor Drive and there's some rocks and stuff, but ultimately I wasn't like sprinting or anything because I knew I'm not qualifying for Kona or anything like that, so my transition times isn't like a big deal. But that's, if you wanted to take an old pair of shoes, you didn't care if like somebody walked by and they're like, oh, some shoes or some flip-flops and just scooped them up or something. Sometimes, if there's just shoes and stuff left behind, they donate it. So they might start that early while you're on the swim and start grabbing stuff. So you just take a chance, it's not the end of the world. But some people like stash shoes or whatever, but you got to be careful if you throw your shoes on and then you come up here to the left was the wetsuit stripper people. So if you put your shoes on, you're going to have to take them off again to help get the wetsuit off. So you just got to be careful of that. So you could stash some shoes up there if you really wanted to. And again, you take a left here on this little access road. You actually do not go along the trail because if you look at the map, it kind of looked like you go along this trail, but it didn't. I just looked at it real quick while I went through. So this little trail section is incorrect. But here's where you come back. When you cross Fluor Drive, this is where, and you're in the street, you're on the sidewalk, so we'll eventually go over the street here, ignore the cute little kids in front of us. So as we're running along, you're running on the pavement, and once you kind of get into the park, there's like a gravel parking lot. There's some other stuff going on. So it was not swept for rocks. It might have been, and just more rocks were just there. I mean, there are rocks everywhere. So if they'd have swept this road, with just like brooms and stuff, they could probably get like 90% of it, but like there's going to be 10% left over. So you're running down, and you got full access to this road. So you're running down the middle. It's no big deal. Nobody's in your way. There's no traffic. There's no vehicles. There's no nothing. So you don't have to worry about, cars running by and running you over or something goofy. So it is, everybody complained, it is a little bit of a long transition, but at the end of the day, it really, my transition times weren't that much more drastic than any other race I've done where the transitions were a little bit closer. I've done Ironman Tulsa, I've done Ironman Florida. Florida, we had to run across the street and run through this little shopping center area, and it was almost just as long because the beach to transition, we had to run across the street because there was no transition area that was convenient. So it's not the end of the world. And as you can see, I'm walking along. So there's a gravel parking lot over here, so I'm sure that's plenty of opportunities to get rocks and everything kicked up on the road. But like I said, ultimately, I think they went through and they swept it a little bit just to make sure it was nice and comfortable for you, and it wasn't a big deal. And then you come over, and this was the swim entrance. This was, you come in this way on the bike. This was the bike finish entrance, and on the other side was the bike out and the run out. So we'll take a little bit closer look at that. And I'm just going through and showing you this is where the dismount line was for the bike. So this is where you start entering, and this is the transition area. So you've got the two transition. They actually had transition tents for this full Ironman, so I would imagine they're bringing those back. So they've got the men's right there and the women's right there, and then the transition areas behind it. So yes, there is a little bit of a run. You go across here, and then they have the bags setting over here. Run through, yell at somebody, they get your bags. Usually somebody was there holding it already. You just grab it and run by. It's no big deal. So basically, a lot of people want to complain about how long the transition was or whatever. It is what it is. I mean, this is kind of what we need in order to make this race happen. So the bike out and the run out, it was like this little run along the trail system to come over here and get to the Grays Lake, just the access road over here. So basically, finish the swim, you come around over here, come in transition, hit the tents, transition your stuff, and you had to take your bike out this way and catch the road, which is a little bit different and a little bit nicer, I guess, than 21 because it rained the morning of, and to get out, the bike was back here. We had to run across this little ditch, and several thousands of people. It got a little bit muddy, a little bit gross, and if you didn't want to get your shoes all nasty, it wasn't. It was a little bit of a problem. I carried my shoes with me so I wouldn't get them covered in mud, so then I can clip into my bike. Not a big deal. But this race for the full in 22, they let you clip your shoes in before the bike start, and then you could leave your shoes on the bike if you wanted to. So if you want to run through the grass, socks, barefoot, or whatever you want to do, you could. And for the full 22, when you come out and you're getting out on your bike, when you're coming out, so if you clipped in your shoes to your pedals, you're running through, and this is going to be a concrete path area to get to the road. So you got to be careful. There's going to be rocks, all kinds of fun stuff like that. But really, it was pretty pristine. So if you did it, I put my shoes on in transition and ran out with my shoes, and it was a little bit of a pain because that is a little bit of a hike to be in biking shoes and then get up here and clip in and start your ride. So if you have the ability or if you practice, I'd recommend, if they allow it, in 23, clip in your shoes to your bike, and that way you can bring it out and then start the bike, and you're already in there. You don't have to go an extra distance in biking shoes because it really is a pain in the butt. So once you come back in from the bike, you come over here, hit the dismount line. You can leave your shoes on your bike or you can wear them. I wore them. Again, I wish I had just left them on the bike. And then you run across that grass little chute, and you come in here, you drop your bike. For 21 or for 22, they had bike catchers. And that's for full. For half, usually there are no bike catchers, so you're running your bike all the way in. Grab your gear bag, hit the tents, and then come out and get porta potties or whatever you need. There's sunscreen over here, and you do the run out was kind of on this side. So you run out in the trail system, and then you start your running race, and you hit the trails. So the run out was the same as 21. I imagine it to be the same in 23 as 22. The bike out was on this side for 22. For 21, it was on this side. So I don't know if they'll continue to do it on this side. It just makes a little bit more sense because there's less mud and less crud to worry about when you're starting your bike to when you're coming off the bike and you're running back in. There's a wide chute. It was a longer area, so less opportunities, and there was not the ravine. There was like a little channel or something like that to get the water over here, and then there's a little ravine ditch thing over here. So over here, you're in dry land. Even if it rained a little bit a few days before. It really wasn't a problem. I didn't see that much of an issue. It rained the morning of when we were there. I think the morning of when I drove in Thursday or something like that. So it really wasn't wet. It wasn't muddy. It wasn't a big deal. So I would imagine for 23 they'll keep it the same situation where you come in from the swim, leave out here for the bike, come in for the bike on the back, run back in transition, and run out and start your run race. So again, that's pretty much Waterworks Park. It's just a big grassy area surrounded by a trail system, concrete trails, and then a little access road. So they let us drop our bikes off. They let us park in this access road, so that was kind of convenient for 22. For 21, we had to park over here, walk our bikes all the way over there, which is kind of a pain. So hopefully they keep that for 23. I would imagine that's another lesson learned for them. Now, if you do have VIP parking, you can park over here. For 22, for the full, they drop you off here. There's the finish line. So if you're parked over here, then yeah, I mean, you catch your souls, get your stuff, get your car. But if you're staying downtown, it's just kind of I have to drive back downtown. So if you're not staying local or close to the venue or close to the finish line, if you want to do VIP and park right here by transition, hey, you got all access. It really helped out for 21. I had it for the half. So I parked there and was able to get all my stuff to the car. And I was pretty banged up because it was pretty hot then, and I did not have a good race. Did not prepare myself well for the heat, and it was a struggle fest. But luckily, I parked right there. Did not have to walk all the way to Bell Avenue. It would have been a nightmare. But for 22, I stayed downtown. So luckily, I had friends that got my stuff and put it in my hotel. So that was kind of nice. But if you needed to, they had shuttles that got you from Cowles Commons to transition, get your stuff, and then they will transport you back to downtown if that's where you're staying or that's where you parked. I do believe they kept going shuttles to Bell Avenue parking lot. If there's anybody on the live chat that wants to say different, I'm not sure if they continued the shuttle system. I would imagine they would, just to make it easy for people to get to their cars. But since the finish line was not there, they probably did not. I don't know if anybody has. That could be to be determined. So for 23, I don't know if they'll keep its shuttle system from downtown. If they consider it big enough to be able to get people back to transition, I would hope so. I would think so. I believe they had it for 21. If you wanted to get to that shuttle, and they did. Actually, I take that back. 21, they have a shuttle to get you back to the transition area. I'd imagine I'll keep that for 23. For that, I think maybe before the race they'll have a shuttle system to get you from parking over to transition, but probably after the race they probably will not. That's a little bit closer than downtown, so they'll probably rely on you after 70.3 to get your gear from transition to your car over here in Bell Avenue in the business center. So I know I talked a lot, and I saw a few questions out there, but if you have any other questions, put them in the comments, and I see them later when I post them on Facebook and YouTube for later, or if I email it out. If you watch this and you have any questions about the races, I've done the half in 21, did the full in 22. To be determined if I want to do the half in 23. It is only a 3.5 hour drive for me from Kansas City, so that's kind of nice. So we'll see if that works out. We'll see if I'm back for more because it's been hot the last 2 years. I really don't like Iowa when it's 90 degrees and like 90% humidity. I don't know why it's like that in June so far these past 2 years. I'm looking for a nice 70 degree, 20% humidity day in Des Moines. So if we dial that up, maybe I'll be back. I don't know. So anyway, if you're watching this on Facebook, give it a like. If you're watching it on YouTube, give it a like, give me a subscribe, hit the notification button. That way you can see future videos either about Des Moines or other races they got going on and on my Wallwarriors update. And if you got any questions or any other comments or anything to add, like I said, put them on there. I get notifications for Facebook, for YouTube, try to answer all the questions and everything. So with that, stay tuned for future venues and races and videos. Good luck with training, and we'll see you guys at the finish line.